Hello, and welcome back to another episode of More Than Milestones. I am so excited today to be joined by Sam, a Southern California educator who's moved into the non-toxic wellness space to share more about her story and the biology habits that have served her body and the bodies of others. Sam, thank you so much for being here with us. And before we get started, just tell us a little bit about you.
Thank you for having me. I'm very excited. This is actually my first podcast. So I was like, I had my first editorial piece released last week by Well House, and this is my first podcast. So I feel very excited to be joining you. My name is Sam Gutierrez, and as Casey said, I'm a Southern California educator. I got my master's in early childhood education, where I grew a passion for the development of the child, how to support the development of a child. And then growing up, I noticed that during my own childhood, I experienced just really bad health scares for my own health. We tried to take care of myself as much as we could with Western medicine. That wasn't really working for me. And then I found out in taking care of my environment, I was able to support my body and my system. So in learning those habits, those tricks, I've been able to share with people to help them have more well-rounded and fulfilling lives.
Love it. Oh my gosh. And I'm really excited to have this conversation with you because it's part of a bigger journey for me since becoming a parent, is really trying to understand, first of all, not getting stuck down rabbit holes, but also trying to understand how to be practical and make healthier choices, healthier swaps, while understanding that we're never going to be perfect. So I would love to touch on healthier swaps for your household and life made manageable, because I think one of the biggest things I hear anytime I've shared about trying to move to non-tox or lower tox options is that it all just feels so overwhelming. And again, as someone who definitely dove headfirst into way too many rabbit holes and had to dial it way back to make it more realistic, I can totally understand that. And so for me, my biggest tip is to start with the things that feel the most important to you. And then as I would run out of one, instead of buying everything new and throwing everything in the garbage, as I ran out of, say, our shampoo, I would choose something that felt like a better option, if you will. So really like researching things one at a time and keeping it manageable worked for me. But I would love to hear kind of the why and how this journey started for you. How have you figured out how to make it manageable for yourself and been able to not only stick with it for you, but also educate others on how to do it for themselves too?
Yes, I very much relate to that. So I'll point back to in high school is when I started this. I'm 33 years old now. And like you, there was a point where it started to become almost like a downward spiral. You start to feel like not enough. Everything's like poison for you. And it became to a point where I had to put a halt. And I just said, I really can't do it anymore. And I did start to regress a little bit. Like I started saying, well, I don't care about this. I don't care about that. And then years later, kind of doing like a balance, I found that even that wasn't working for me because I know what I know, right? I know the science, and the science supports that where capitalism is king in our country and products are put out before we really study their effect on us. I have to be knowledgeable about that, but I can do that at a pace that doesn't make me feel like I'm caving under the efforts of what's going on. So then I came back to myself, and like you, I said, I am just going to pay attention when I run out of something. That is my cue. And at that time, anytime I ran out of something, I got a little overwhelmed again because I felt I haven't done the research and now I got to go do some research and do this. But what's nice about social media now, you talk about something around your phone, you're getting ads, you're getting the right content, the right influencers that are being marketed towards you. So for me, I just find a few health influencers now that I believe in. I believe their story. I love the way they're executing what they're picking up for themselves and just being engaged in their content. I don't even have to do research. When I run out of something, I remember, like Kayla Barnes was talking about this or Taylor Dukes was talking about this. And then I kind of pick into trying myself. And I think that's why my audience engages with me, because I look at all of these different influencers, all this different research. I think that's what I love, just diving into the studies and saying what's really now from the non-toxic options, giving me the performance I need. So that's how I've been making it more manageable. When I decided, what are the things I want to pick a battle on? For me, dealing with doctors, I had to pay attention to anything with a mucous membrane. So my mouth, my nose, and because I'm a woman, my area down there. So that was really important for me in selecting what was most important for me. I didn't even really start with organic food, to be honest. I started with cookware because I knew if I was buying like the highest grade food products and I was putting it on cookware that was leaching chemicals into it, it really didn't do me any good. So I started thinking, okay, my mucous membranes, and then what's going to be the highest impact? Probably what I'm cooking with. My skincare, what's going to be the highest impact? Probably what seeps into my skin, but probably not what I'm going to use to have a cleanser that's going to wipe off right away. So I just started seeing, okay, mucous membrane, how long is something staying on me? What's seeping into my skin? What's going to yield the highest maximum effort and for myself? So that's how I first decided on what to choose.
Love that. Now, here's my thing. And this was always what was hard for me. So I would love to hear your input on this. There is so much conflicting information. Who knows who this study is being sponsored by? Who is promoting this product? Is there ways that you have found or things that you have learned that you're like, this ingredient, this something, I'm running it through some sort of database that is unbiased that I can be like, is this safe? For me, it's fragrance. If something has fragrance, I'm out automatically. But then I started to research like PEG and the numbers afterwards, and it can become really overwhelming and it can be hard to discern what is truly a risk and what isn't.
I felt that way too, especially since I started hearing the Yucca app. I was hearing some weird information come up about that, about businesses paying for certain involvement in that process. I'm not sure how accurate that is, but my favorite resource that I found to date about that is Andrea Dar, I believe is her last name. She created the Switch Natural app. I'm not sure if you've heard of it, but it doesn't go by barcodes, which I love because you can scan a product. One, the product listing can change and you don't really know unless someone went in that database and updated the barcode link to the product. And also I really wanted something that had no affiliation with the company, if anyone could get their hands in there and kind of muddy information. So what she did is she based her app by ingredient list. Literally, you take a picture of, let's say, your shampoo. You look at the ingredient list, you take a picture, it scans the words in there, it pulls up every study on there that she has put in there that shows the EU a clarification of it, the United States clarification of it. Why is it dangerous? Like, do you want to see what it synthesizes into that could be harmful? So she has a blog post on it that determines why she made that choice. That has been my favorite resource to date because I don't have to worry about someone meddling with information. It literally is, here are the ingredients, here are the studies, you choose. Do you want to use it?
We will find a link to that and put it in the episode notes too, because that sounds pretty incredible. And I know that there was a couple apps that, like 5 years ago, I started to kind of try to use, and there was things that came out about them, and it was almost a little bit discouraging because I know how to research and I'm struggling. How do you make a good decision, and how do you not have it feel so overwhelming with the mentality that like everything is toxic? I think when it comes to our kids, what can be really overwhelming for parents is trying to understand we can't change everything, we can't control everything, but there are things that we can control. So in terms of products, or is there anything that you're like, please, everyone, avoid this? Like, this is the one thing.
Goodness. I would probably say Quats. So Quats, those are quaternary ammonium compounds. They're technically synthetic disinfectants. And, people will find them in their Lysol sprays. They will find them in their Lysol wipes. And I'm really glad that what's gaining traction right now is that 20-year study from Norway that tracked 6,000 participants, and particularly to cleaning sprays, and that the lung function decline equated to someone smoking around 20 packs a day. And that wasn't just professional cleaners. It showed, yes, we tracked professional cleaners. We also tracked women who were just cleaning at home. And if you think about that, again, going back to the mucous membrane, when you spray something in the air, when you're putting something on the counter that later dries up, your kid puts something on there, eats off that same surface, you are ingesting these quaternary ammonium compounds. They're not helpful for you. They're linked to endocrine disruption. They're linked to respiratory irritation, which was what made me pay attention to hypochlorous acid, which I was talking about with you earlier. That I was like, there's got to be a way that we can protect ourselves without literally, like, it feels like poisoning ourselves, like deciding, is it one or the other? Do I get the stomach flu this year? Do I disinfect with like a heavy hitter here? And then what really was hitting home with me is that, at one point, I'm telling you, I was a teacher, right? And when kids were throwing up, I was like, I got to do my best to make sure it doesn't like hit every one of us. And I would grab those Lysol wipes, I would smell it, get a headache, like take care of it. And I saw that the EPA registration number to it, if you look it on the back, it can't kill norovirus. So it says, yes, we kill 99.9 of germs, bacteria, viruses, all that. But then you have to ask, okay, what kind of viruses? Can we kill 99.9% of enveloped viruses? But norovirus is a non-enveloped virus. So I went into hypochlorous acid. And I know you said that you actually have Force of Nature. And first, I would love to hear what you think about it, how you got into it. And I would love to even just dive head in right here for parents so they're knowing more about it.
Let's do it. And I want to come back also to what you just said about enveloped. And because I think for a lay person, including me, I'm like, I don't really know what that means, but that sounds super interesting. And the reason that I ended up trying Force of Nature is, oh God, it's been probably, I want to say like 4 years now. And part of what led me to it is I felt like I needed a bleach alternative and I had no idea where to look. And I don't even remember who or how I saw Force of Nature, but I was like, let me try it. And I won't ever use anything else now. Even like cleaning high chairs, all of the things, again, like you don't necessarily think about it. And when it's something that's sold on the shelves and something we've used our whole lives, it's almost like that survivor bias piece where
Yes.
if you're not thinking about the fact that those formulations have changed or the ingredients in the cereal that we had as kids is very different than the ingredients in the cereal now, I think it's so easy to get not complacent because that's not the right word, but kind of like this is what we've always done and not questioning, but is that the best choice? And I think it's hard to like maintain the balance of not becoming just, again, like a total skeptic of like, you know, everybody is out to get us. But it's also kind of the reality that like these big companies don't necessarily have our best interest at heart. So anyway,
Right.
I don't really know how, I wish I could remember how I ended up with Force of Nature, but I am so glad we have no sprays like that. We have no Lysol wipes, no bleach.
Good.
Yeah. But okay, let's go back to the viruses. Enveloped and what was the other thing you said?
Non-enveloped. So an enveloped virus has a lipid membrane that can denature, your hand sanitizer, at least if it's at least 60% alcohol, it can go for it. But non-enveloped, they don't have that lipid membrane. So you got to go after something that goes literally to like the nucleus of what the organism is. And how I found it actually was I was getting really bad anxiety actually with meeting with a friend who had told me that her son had just gotten over the stomach flu. And I was, knowing what I know, I was like, Lord, if it's not cleaned properly, that's why I think also it travels from person to person very easily in households that aren't cleaning it properly, is because it's living and it can live for weeks on a certain surface. So I had already agreed to the meetup, and she had said that her son was at home, but all I was thinking about was like, if she had touched that surface that still has it, and now we're coming, we're hugging, and I just kind of it wasn't great for me. And so I started going down research about what can kill a non-enveloped virus like norovirus that's so hardcore. And I came across hypochlorous acid. Now the first introduction I had to it was Force of Nature, and I thought, oh my goodness, it's literally salt, water, vinegar. That's electrolysis, electricity sent through, and it puts it back into the molecules of HOCl. Oh, this is amazing. So I had bought it, used it immediately, and I was starting to put in my spray bottles to go out into public, like spray my cart when I'm going grocery shopping, just in case like there was norovirus on there. And I couldn't keep up with the 2 week, you know how it denatures in 2 weeks around? Yeah, I couldn't keep up with it. I was like, oh man, like it works great if it's in my kitchen, if I'm just making a bottle. But I was like, I really need something that lasts longer than that. And I understand like it wants to denature back to salt water. And I also love that it denatures it to something that isn't harmful. But I was like, hey, I gotta have something that stays in my purse that I can make it last a long time. And I came across the scientist, Jeff Williams, who was the scientist who stabilized it. So there was a moment where people figured out, oh my gosh, we can make hypochlorous acid, which is produced in the human body, again, by your white blood cells. It's produced inside. How can we produce it outside? That was the first step. Someone else did that. But Jeff Williams was the first scientist who stabilized it long term and was able to partner with Bill Maher, and they formed Curativa Bay. So I researched this company and I was like, well, their actual product is stabilized for years, which is something I had not found. Like I had found weeks with Force of Nature. I found months with another business. And then I found years is when I started to go, whoa, years stabilized? Perfect. The Curativa Bay. And as of now, with the EPA, they are registered at one of their newest products indefinitely. It can't go bad. And bleach doesn't even have that. Most people don't know that you open bleach, it can start to degrade 6 months after opening. So they're not going to share their process, I'm sure, because it's probably highly secret of how they do that. But I have not gone back since then. I use it anytime a kid even like accidentally comes and asks me like, can I have a Band-Aid, Miss G? And they like sneeze in my face. I have hypochlorous acid nasal spray. I'm putting it up my nose. I'm trying to get it into before that mucous membrane absorbs it. The kids come in from recess. If they have a cut, they know they can spray hypochlorous acid right on that cut. It's great. It's like your body produces it. It's made and designed to protect and help you.
It's so funny that we're talking about this because I'm having like a light bulb moment. So I also use active skin repair. I've used it with the kids for years now. And that uses hypochlorous.
Yes, I do love the brand. The ingredient list does have phosphates in it, which is not a big deal to me. But Curativa Bay doesn't have any, and it's about, I think Active is like 3 times the price of what Curativa Bay is. So that's why I went over. I did try Active. I like their hydrogel, which Curativa Bay doesn't have a hydrogel for like sunburns or if you want to keep it on a cut. But it just financially and scientifically made more sense for me to go with Curativa Bay.
Well, totally. I mean, that's so interesting. Oh, I'm going to have to look into that. So here's the thing too. I think ultimately a lot of parents and people want to make healthier swaps, but the fear of what actually works or what doesn't to keep our family safe can kind of hold us in that bind of using what we've always known. So can you kind of just break down a little bit for us of why do you think Lysol became the understood standard for cleaning and all of the things when it really doesn't have the research to back that?
I always live by that statement that capitalism is king. And while maybe the efforts at the beginning were good, we're trying to find something that is, because remember I told you hypochlorous acid wasn't stabilized for a bit. It was actually used in World War I to help at the front lines in creating on demand for people who were getting seriously injured. But again, it wasn't stabilized long term. So I can see the efforts that probably came to be where like, hey, we need something that's going to kill these germs and viruses, bacteria, all of that. In a stabilized format. So Quats, synthetic disinfectants. I can see where that came to be. But like I believe, I think sometimes things are put on the market in hopes of, generating income, helping people. And then when that research comes up and backs it up, I think someone has to face the truth. Am I going to disassemble this brand, this income that I have for so many people who have jobs? Or am I going to just maybe put a warning on the back that says, hazardous to humans, and literally let the humans decide? And that's what's scary, is that's on the back of there. And so in terms of determining efficacy for a product, particularly to disinfectants, I mean, you can go to the EPA registration website, type in that number. It tells you exactly what it can kill, the kill claim, the kill time, which is another point I want to point to. Sometimes parents do like a quick wipe and then run down with water. I'm like, contact time. Like, is it 30 seconds that it takes to kill? Is it a minute? Is it 2 minutes? So I always go by EPA registration for anything that I'm using that has a kill claim for anything. For efficacy of other products, is there something you had in mind when you were referring to that?
No, it's just really fascinating to me, I think, because I even see it from like a development standpoint. For example, walkers. We know now that baby walkers, the ones that you put them into, are banned everywhere. It is illegal to buy and sell them pretty much everywhere except the US because there is like massive risk of injury, of falling down the stairs. We know developmentally it's not good for postural control and developing balance and all of these things. It can lead to toe walking. And there are so many people that when I share that, they're like, well, I was in one and I'm fine. Or, my kids were all in them and they're all athletes. And like, that's incredible, but that's your experience. When you have kind of the research to back it up, it's almost like the heels digging in even more. I find the whole survivor bias mentality so fascinating, whether it's about products or cleaning or just in general, the lived experience. So that's kind of where I was coming at it from. At what point, or is there a point where the company has to take ownership beyond just putting a label on it and leaving it to humans?
I don't think we're there. I think I even saw, not sure if you follow Gary Brecka, but he was sharing a a new legislation in Texas, I believe, where things like Cheetos, those snacks have the dyes in that and all that stuff, they were faced with, a consequence. Like they say, take this out of the product, or we will put this label, we will make sure that you have to put this label on there that says not recommended for human consumption. And I think you've probably maybe seen that now. Is it Doritos or Cheetos? One of them came out with a dye-free option. And there's already people who are like, oh, but I missed the color. I missed this. And I think it comes from an education shift, honestly, that people need to look at. You can't look at what's on your TV that's marketed to make you engage. Look at the research. Look at your population. Look how many people you know who have cancer, who have an autoimmune disease, who have something. Look at yourself. How's your energy level? How are you responding? How's your mental health? I don't think survivor bias, like you're saying, I think you can only go so far when you take a look at the people that are around you and what's come to be from the movements that have come.
Ooh, I think it feels very overwhelming, right? Like I'm literally hearing you say that and I'm like, oh my God, I have a bag of Doritos right now. Oh my God.
So does my boyfriend. He eats Takis and he's like, listen, I don't eat Red 40 often, but it's gonna be this. I'm like,
that's
all right.
it. And it's like, I feel like it, again, like it can become so overwhelming to really think about that we are the only ones advocating for ourselves and like looking at our society as a whole and like, cancer rates and obesity and mental health struggles. It's all kind of depressing to think about the fact that like we are the only ones looking out for ourselves on top of all the other things that we have to do, right? Like, but I hope, my hope is by the time we wrap up this conversation that it does feel feasible and manageable and not quite so daunting and overwhelming. Like, okay, yes, there are some things that I'm going to give and take here and there, but that like you do have the power to keep this manageable, I guess.
Yes, absolutely. Let's talk about that because your body is an intelligent design. Just think about your cells, how they replicate, how they go to a site of injury, the intelligence that's behind that. Your body knows how to take care of itself. And I love actually a chiropractic quote that says, nature needs no help. It just doesn't need interference, meaning what can be blocking it? What can be hindering my ability to detox effectively. So for me, like when my boyfriend Franco, when he eats that, I'm just like, all right, let's make sure we're taking some glutathione. Let's make sure we're supporting your detox system because I believe your body can and is strong enough to handle it. I just don't want to overrun my system. Like with anything, right? Like you have a bucket, there's a part where it'll runneth over. So when I think about that, I'm like, when it's at the midway, how can I support my detox system? Am I making sure that I'm supporting my circadian rhythm? Every morning I get up right away. I go get sunlight in my eyes. I am drinking water with mineral salt to support my rehydration. I am taking glutathione to support my detox pathways. I am doing my lymphatic jumps. I am making sure I'm getting into a sweat rhythm to making sure I'm detoxing through that way. So I think what made me feel less scared is understanding that I have one, the power to control how much exposure I'm comfortable with. And two, I have the power to support my body to face whatever exposure it has. It's designed to detox. I have my liver. I've got my kidneys. I can, there's ways to take out things. And how can I support that? So I think for anyone who might feel overwhelmed at what to avoid, you can also switch it to how can I take care and support my body? And that makes me feel confident that I can face whatever is coming at me.
My God, I love that. And it's so funny you brought up the lymph jumping because I had seen it all over social media. And I was like, you know what? I'm doing it. I'm going to do 50 jumps every morning for 50 days and see how I feel. And I'm a fully active person as is. I notice the difference. I truly do. And now it's so funny because my kids, I'll do it first thing in the morning. I'm out in the kitchen and it's kind of turned into like a silly dancing kind of thing at this point. I don't know that we're really effectively jumping. But it's such a simple thing that until it was like trending, quote unquote, I would have thought about it, It's those little things I feel like are so powerful for not only us, but for parents to bring that into your child's life from the get-go and explain it and be like, our bodies are incredible. We have this lymph system built in. We have all of these protective mechanisms within our body that like we can tap into. So let's talk about that. The practical tips and tricks for moms or for anyone really that won't overwhelming but have a big impact, like Soleus push-ups. Should we start there?
Perfect. Yes. Soleus push-ups are my second favorite to glucose walks. If you can't get a glucose walk in, I say do your Soleus push-ups. So for moms who, right after you eat, like you take your stroller out and your kid and you're walking within 30 minutes is when it's most effective of bringing 20 to 30 milligrams per deciliter in your glucose levels. So you are having your muscles pull straight from your bloodstream that glucose. You're not having to deal with those spikes and everything that can come along with that. When mom, and like myself, when I'm on my lunch, I don't actually have time for a walk right away. I have to go right back into the class. And sometimes if I'm at the desk, I just do my Soleus push-ups, which are basically your calf muscle. Sometimes it's it's referred to as the second heart because of all the pump it does. But the Soleus muscle, particularly in your calf muscle, it's made primarily from slow twitch fibers, which means it's designed to sustain continuous movement, which makes sense because we are walking beings, without getting fatigued very quickly. What that means now is if you are sitting down, your knees are 90 degrees, your toes are actually in line with your knees, and you're pulling up that heel and you're dropping it in a controlled manner, that's a Soleus push-up. That pump, so to say, is pulling straight from the bloodstream. It doesn't need to go into the glycogen reserves, and it's helping to bring down those glucose levels. I love that. So Dr. Mark Hamilton was the professor at the University of Houston that documented this, and I believe it was like 50, like a drop in 50 points when he was documenting it. Granted, it was for hours, I think 3 hours that he was doing it, but the whole point of his study was saying, we have found a way at the resting state that you're able to tap into fat metabolism. You're able to tap into glucose regulation at a resting state. Most people think like you got to be moving, walking, doing a squat, but you can be at resting and lifting that soleus muscle in there. So if you are maybe trying to get a quick meal in and then you're breastfeeding at that chair, you can do those soleus push-ups to help. For me, I always advocate if you can get the walk in, get the walk in. Anything from even 5 to 15 minutes within 30 minutes is the most beneficial. But if it's before 90, the research shows that it's incredibly helpful.
Wow, amazing, amazing. Motherhood takes energy, and staying hydrated is key. That's why I love Element. It's a tasty electrolyte drink mix that gives you everything you need: sodium, potassium, magnesium, without sugar or fillers. I use it every single day, from after workouts to busy mom days and everything in between. Right now, Element is giving my listeners a free sample pack with any purchase, which gives you 2 of each of their signature flavors, so you can figure out what you love the most. Just head to the link in the episode notes below to get started. And for the record, the lemonade salt is unreal, but they are all so dang good. You'll thank me later. What about, I know you've shared, at least I've seen on socials, about eating carbs first, or eating protein or fiber first. And can we just, I think so many of us,
Yes.
never learned how to make a balanced meal. There is such a big piece of the conversation there that's like learning this as a kid, or understanding why your parents are picking a protein. How do we build a balanced meal, and what's the importance of that?
Oh, goodness. So my favorite resource for this, do you follow the glucose goddess?
Don't.
Oh my goodness, you have to look her up. Her name's Jessie. I hope I say this. She's French. I think it's Inchopé. I think is how you say it. But she is a French biochemist, and she is so wonderful about teaching. I'll explain a little bit, but she does it in an engaging way too. Like I'm hooked every time she posts a video. But she does explain, the importance of you want to eat your carbs last if you can. And so the reason behind that is your protein and anything with fiber, so your vegetables, comes in and kind of builds this matrix, right, in your gut lining. So the carbs don't get digested right away and start leaking glucose. You have something that's kind of that barrier there. Now, I worked with a nutritionist at UCSD, and she said the same thing. You want to eat clockwork. Now, how Jessie touches on it, I love, because she's thinking the same thing that I am, and I'm sure many people are thinking. That is so boring to eat like that, especially when I'm like, what? I'm not going to eat like ding, ding, ding. So she's like, listen, no one wants to literally do that. The easiest way you can do is literally just think about eating your vegetables first. Like I'm like eating like my salad and my broccoli, my carrots, and then I'm like taking a bite of my mashed potatoes. I'm going back. I'm just hitting it first with trying to put that physical barrier there. Another way that you can do it that I sometimes do, I don't love doing it, is I drink back a shot of like ACV, so apple cider vinegar. There are shrubs that are more tasty, but that itself will help regulate glucose. So if you don't want to eat it in a particular order, you can kind of like biohack your way into that. Go ahead.
It's so funny that you're saying this. I just last night saved a TikTok video about eating a handful of arugula before you start your food, like a tiny little, literally
Mhm.
just taking a handful of arugula. Oh God, now I need to pull it up. But I can't remember exactly what it was something about the bitterness in it and the way that it impacted the absorption of whatever else you were going to eat. And I feel like it's
Mhm.
got to be tied to exactly what you're talking about. And I didn't even make that
Yes.
connection until you're saying that.
Exactly. So I don't want to be bored when I'm eating. So I just literally, instead of going 1, 2, 3, I'm just like, let me just think of it as my starter, which if you're thinking about it, people who did their 3-course meals, they kind of naturally did that. They're like, salads first, everybody. And it was prepping your body for digestion. So I think it's coming back to new routines when eating, but I'm not doing the A, B, C. I really want to be able to eat what I want to eat in the order and the flavor profiles together. So I just do something beforehand. Jesse even has a product called Anti-Spike that you can take a pill form beforehand that I think utilizes lemon. Lemon's really good, which I do that. I do hot lemon water before I eat a meal. If I'm at a restaurant, I just ask for hot lemon water. If I'm at home, I have in my freezer, I prep my ice cubes with lemon juice, just drop them in like some hot water. So I just think about things as starters. I'm not going to think about, for me, that works. I'm like, I don't want to be bored eating. So I just think of starters to help me digest and get the best feeling for my body.
I love that. And that actually is exactly what I wanted to talk a little bit about next was, so meal prep, I would love more than anything to be able to spend Sundays and meal prep a bunch of stuff and
Mm,
have it all set up easily for the week for myself and my husband and the kids. But I also don't want to spend my entire Sunday like that. So
yes.
is like those little tips right there of like the lemon ice cubes, that's like
Yes.
mind blowing to me. That's something I could so easily do. My kids would
Mhm.
help me squeeze them and like,
Mhm.
do you have more tips like that of like making practical basic tips easier to actually implement, like just like that, or
Yes.
making meal prep more manageable?
Mhm. The lemon ice cubes was my favorite that I did because that was taking forever, honestly, for me. It was taking too much time. And so that's my favorite one is prepping my lemon ice cubes so I can just drop them whenever I need. Even for like vinaigrettes and salads, I just drop it in, let it melt for a bit, get it ready. For breakfast, egg bites, I know can be boring for some people, but one time when I was getting stressed out with just everything that was going on with at school, I reached out to my boyfriend. I said, I'm so stressed out. I just need something quick in the morning for breakfast that makes me feel like I'm filled, gives me that protein, and we're good to go. He created like a whole little menu of egg bites and different ways he can make them for me. It was so easy. It's just eggs, cottage cheese, vegetables, and you just put it into the bake. They're good for the whole week. I like prepping my smoothies too in these just silicone BPA free bags. And I just go down a line. I put like my fruits, my greens, my protein powder, seal it up, put it into the freezer. If I'm feeling a pineapple smoothie that day, pull it out. A berry smoothie that day, pull it out. Those are things that I can do that prep ahead of time. And then as far as meals, one thing that my sister does really well, she's like, Sam, just literally tell yourself protein, vegetable, and like a grain or a green or something. And so I had to understand that I can't look at meals as boring anymore. I have to look at meals as, wow, how lucky am I that I get to nourish my body like this? Okay, chicken, carrots, salad with a simple vinaigrette. And I think that helped me come back to reality that not everything had to be this, this thing that I saved on Instagram and never pulled up 3 years later. It just can be, how am I going to nourish my body today? And let's just pick like that, a simple meat, a protein, salt and pepper, garlic, and don't put your self-worth as a mom or me as a girlfriend trying to show myself that I want to prep cool meals for you. I want to take care of us. It doesn't have to be flamboyant. It can be just nourishing and loving that way.
Yeah. There's so much power too in our kids seeing that. It really comes down to nourishing yourself and taking care of yourself and understanding what you're putting into your body instead of the blind snacking or you skip a meal or, I have no data to back this up, but I feel like how old are you?
33.
Okay, so I'm 37 and I feel like our generation had kind of a disordered approach to eating for a very long time, or at least I know I did. I was a big meal skipper. If I wasn't hungry, I would just not have anything, or I would, skip breakfast because I was running late to class or something, whatever it might be. And it took me a really long time to change my relationship with food and the approach to food and the approach to meals. And again, not swing that pendulum all the way to like, I've got to do these elaborate things that I have 300 screenshots of in my phone and I'm never going to look at them again. versus just literally being like, okay, protein, carb, fiber, or whatever. I think it's such a societal shift, at least in my experience, and being able to teach my girls specifically
Yes.
and my son how to have a relationship with food that's from a place of nourishment. It's cool. It feels like we're like changing things, you know?
Absolutely. Yep. And like you, I used to, when I was nervous, skip meals. And I think that even started to lead into unhealthy habits for myself. And actually I have some friends who do skip certain meals because I really am not hungry. I'm like, well, how about some amino acids, girl? Like, let's take some
Yeah.
amino acids, or something like that. I was diagnosed with SIBO when I was in elementary school, and which is small intestine bacterial overgrowth. It's like linked to too many antibiotics when I was growing up. And I had to actually be medically starved for 2 weeks. I literally missed the act of chewing. I would just kind of like sit and just remember what that felt like because I didn't chew for a bit. And that really changed my mindset of when I first got to eat food again. Like, it is an act of love for myself to, to take care of myself and to pour into every little cell that's keeping me alive. And so I think that's something that I really, when I have children, I so desperately want them. I can't wait as we feed, just like say like, oh, this is going to take care of your stomach and it's going to make you strong, which I think parents already talking about stuff like that. This is going to help your cells talk to each other, and just talking about the biochemistry that it is and the wonder of being a human being, I think is going to change at least generational mindsets that I've kind of played into for myself.
Oh, 100%. It's so cool. That actually just gave me chills. That's really cool. So, okay, I would love to just wrap this up with, is there anything that you can think of that is like your top tip for a change that someone could make right this second that is inexpensive or doesn't cost them any money or will just change the game? Beyond, we're going to start doing our Soleus push-ups. We're going to start trying to take walks after we eat. We're going to start trying to make sure that we have our protein and our greens and then our carbs. But is there anything else that you're like, if you can do this one thing today, it's a game changer?
Do you want more behavior? Because behaviors are free, or more of a product swap that's cheap?
Ooh, both.
Okay. For behaviors, so behaviors are free. We're going to go with, I would say, setting your circadian rhythm. When you wake up in the morning, you get sunlight first thing in your eyes because that's setting all of your hormones. It's setting your internal clock there. So what I do is I sometimes even brush my teeth in my backyard. I'm just looking around the soft sunlight, brushing my teeth for 2 minutes, then going and starting my day like that. Because I want to get that internal clock set, which is going to lead to deeper, more restful sleep at the appropriate times. For product, I would say vinegar. I don't use vinegar as a disinfectant. I don't think it's a great disinfectant at all, but I use vinegar in 3 main ways that's been most cost effective for me. One, it is my fabric softener in my washing machine. It doesn't make your clothes stink, and it gives the same effect. 2, I
Whoa.
put a cup of it on my top load in my dishwasher, especially with non-toxic tablets. Sometimes there's those little white marks that leave when you put a cup of white vinegar at the top dish rack. It goes away. I love it. And then also I use
Wait. Hold on. What? So like instead of oh my God, my mind is blown. Like a literal cup filled, but
Yep.
the other way on the top.
Other way. I don't use the tall cups. Mine's like a Pyrex. Like, it looks like it's made for like small side. I just always have when I stick the vinegar in there. And I do it halfway because if you're thinking about it, that first run is water trying to take food off, and then it runs out all that gunk. So I try to do it halfway so that water is filling up the first time. It hasn't overfilled yet. So I'm waiting until it spills over into that wash cycle. And I've not gone back. It's my favorite thing to do for dishwashing. Love it, love it. And then with what I was talking about earlier with hypochlorous acid, Casey and I both have Force of Nature, which kind of is so nice. It takes out the guesswork with measuring my salt and my water. You just literally stick the capsule in, and it electrolyzes the salt water to become hypochlorous acid. I make my own with a different electrolyzer. It's under Equinox Tech. I'll direct people to my Instagram right now. If you go to the link in my bio at Sam Healing Habits, there's a discount link there if you want, for all different types of hypochlorous acid brands, and which ones I find more effective for people. But yeah, I measure my own vinegar, my own iodine-free salt, measure my water, and I make my own non-toxic disinfectant like that real quick with really cost-effective items. So vinegar is my true hero and probably my daily routines.
I'm so glad I asked you that. And it's funny because probably like a year ago, I switched over to non-toxic dishwasher pods, but I noticed that without that cascade at the end of getting all of
Yes.
that stuff off,
Uh-huh.
that is one thing that I've struggled a little
Ooh.
bit with.
Mhm.
So I'm like, oh my, I'm doing it now.
I
I'm going to
know.
make a bunch of
Oh,
messes and
yeah.
then
I've tried like 6 of the non-toxic ones. I've tried Blue Land, all those ones. I liked Green Llama the best. And so
okay. Green. Oh, I'm on it. Okay, so tell us one more time. You just mentioned your Instagram, but tell everyone where they can find you, where they can find your resources, your information, and we'll put everything in the episode notes too. But give us
so
a rundown.
much. Right now, I'm just focusing on Instagram. I'm still full-time teaching right now, so I just want to slowly just make sure I'm going at a steady pace. So you can definitely find me on Instagram at Sam_healinghabits. And the link in my bio is my Beacons profile, which has all of my resources with my thoughts on different products. And then I'm looking next year to start diving into my website, my blog post, and I think be very, very into the hypochlorous acid world. Like I mentioned earlier, talking to different CEOs and deciding what do I want to do. I want my line of work to be in that and helping families take care of themselves in a non-toxic way. So hopefully if you
Oh
follow
my
along, you
gosh.
get to see that.
Yes, I love it. You will do it. That is your vision board for 2026. I love it. Thank you seriously so much for being here. This was so helpful and just a great conversation. I really appreciate you.
Thank you, Casey. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And we'll see you guys next time on another episode of More Than Milestones.